and still movement. The expression of motion within the still life of black and white photography embodies the curious nature of forms that are simultaneously static and dynamic. Through a conversation between art and science, this installation of recent acquisitions in photography considers the motion of life as a process in natural and built environments and seeks to explore simplistic and entropic experiences. Developed by a team of undergraduate students nominated by faculty for their combined interest in art and science, these images represent their intersectional interest and serve as a visual representation between the interplay of art and science.
This is Isabella Chalfant from the class of 2022, and I researched Harry Callahan's camera movement on flashlight, made in 1946 to 1947. American photographer Harry Callahan was renowned in the art community for his experimental approach to photography, allowing for a myriad of different forms and techniques within his work. Camera movement on flashlight was created using multiple exposures and showcasing the dynamics of line and motion within the possibilities of form. The movements of the flashlight resemble the human body, while the gesture of the line brings life into that which is physically unmoving, creating a flow of energy throughout the piece as a whole.
This is Anna Melhorn, class of 2022, and I researched William B. Giles's Water Splash. Like most of the photographs in William B. Giles's Mother of Pearls portfolio, Water Splash manages to give living qualities to the non-living. Water Splash was photographed at Stony Brook in New York, where Giles spent much of his time and found frequent artistic inspiration. Upon viewing Water Splash, the eye is immediately drawn to the brightness in the upper center portion of the photograph, which seems to contain a human face.
This is Lily Soleil, class of 2024, and I researched Lottie Jacoby's photogenic abstraction. Lottie Jacoby grew up in a family of photographers and attended the Bavarian State Academy of Photography and the University of Munich. She first worked primarily with portraits, then transitioned into abstract images such as photogenic abstraction. These photographs were created without a camera, but instead by twisting cellophane or placing pieces of glass on top of photogenic paper. This is Lily Soleil, class of 2024, and I researched Win Bullock's Horsetails Through Window. After attending the Los Angeles Art Center in 1938, Win Bullock mainly produced solarization photographs. It was not until 1948, when Bullock met Edward Weston, that he turned to realism, and his photographs began to establish a deeper connection with nature, as seen in Horsetails Through Window. Many of Bullock's realistic images act as a metaphor for greater meanings. In this photograph, he uses a window to frame the outside world filled with horsetail plants. This could lead the viewer to draw further conclusions about the built environment and the outside world.
This is Anna Melhorn, class of 2022, and I researched William Giles's Screech Owl. Screech Owl is one of the 18 gelatin silver print photographs in American photographer William B. Giles's Mother of Pearls portfolio. The owl, with its wings outstretched, appears to be in a state of startled shock as it sits glowing against a deep black background. With wings of a moth-like resemblance, this photograph exemplifies the analogous qualities that enable unrelated animals to accomplish the same movement, flight. While the majority of the photographs in the Mother of Pearls portfolio capture the light and movement of the non-living, Screech Owl is unique in its dramatic display of a live owl.
This is Macy Calder, class of 2021, and I researched Barbara Morgan's Pregnant, 1940. Barbara Morgan is famous for her photographs involving city themes, modern dance, photo montage, or light drawings. However, her artistic career began as a painter and an art teacher. What ultimately drew her to photography was the birth of her child in 1935. Believing the medium to be practiced quickly and efficiently, photography quickly became a part of her body of work. Pregnant 1940 offers a more cozy and sensual side to her photography and touches on what brought her to photography in the first place. Featuring an unnamed nude pregnant subject under a single light source, this photograph swells with life. The anonymity of the subject is enhanced by the exclusion of a face, and though the viewer becomes familiar with freckles and marks on the body due to the proximity of the subject to the camera, this private moment does not feel intrusive. Elements of soft lights and darks in the foreground make this maternity photograph feel personal, intimate, and powerful in its boldness, while the velvet black background adds a sense of timelessness.
This is Isabella Chalfant from the class of 2022, and I researched Imogen Cunningham's Papaver Orientale, made in 1965. American photographer Imogen Cunningham was best known for her photos of botanicals, though she also documented industrial and nude subjects in her artwork. Her pieces focused on the simplicity of realism and the elegance of the world in black and white. The exhibited photograph, Papaver Orientale, titled after the scientific name of the oriental poppy, depicts the flower at the end of its lifespan. The image portrays the poppy as it wilts and dries, the petals falling away and leaving behind the seed heads that carry the promise of new life. The cycle of life is displayed in monochrome as the motion of death leads to the fulfillment of the plant's purpose.
This is Macy Calder, class of 2021, and I researched Barbara Morgan's Valerie Bettis, The Desperate Heart. Arriving in New York City in the mid-1930s, Barbara Morgan began to establish her career as a photographer while going to theaters and watching modern dancers. Morgan quickly fell in love with the movement and expression she watched on stage during modern dance performances. In her controlled studio, Morgan invited dancers to perform while she photographed them, hoping to capture, quote, the most profound and crucial moment. One such American dancer, Valerie Bettis, who trained in modern dance under German instructors, is featured in this photograph. Bettis began her professional dancing career at the age of 17 and became famous for combining dance and literature into her performances. In this photograph, Bettis' dance is inspired by John Malcolm Brennan's poem, The Desperate Heart, an exploration of the frantic, quote, backwards and forwards, longing for a past love. The sweep of the high kick and the billowing fabric of the dress around her leg convey those frenzied and passionate feelings, frozen through the lens of a photograph.
This is Maya White, class of 2021, and I researched William B. Giles's Nude Beach, California, 1979. William B. Giles is an American photographer best known for his breathtaking gelatin silver prints of the natural world. Born in Boston, Massachusetts, Giles has since traveled far and wide, residing for some time in London, South Africa, and Argentina, respectively. With each new turn, he has crafted a new story of the world as he sees it. Each of his photographs serves as a tiny window into the silent intimacies of nature and pulls the viewer closer into a relationship of ecological harmony. Nude Beach, California, 1979, reinforces this relationship by further blurring the lines between the human and the land. In the image, the rolling curvatures of the sand begin at once to mirror the human form. What is, at first glance, a scene of sand strewn haphazardly under the force of wind becomes an intricate carving of bare bodies lying gracefully beneath a clear sky. Giles calls viewers to consider their relationship to the natural world as one of life-sustaining mutuality. As we are supported by the earth, we become it. As we act upon the earth, so do we act upon ourselves.
This is Luke Marini, class of 2023, and I researched Paul Caponigro's Eroded Sand, Revere, Massachusetts. One of Paul Caponigro's many works in landscape photography, this image displays the physical record of an age-old natural process in the sand. Unobservable processes of erosion result in a stunning collection of patterns and textures with resemblance to other structures found in nature, both biological and geological.
This is Sarah Morgan, class of 2021, and I researched Bernice Abbott's photograph from Elizabeth McCausland's window at 50 Commerce Street. In From Elizabeth McCausland's window at 50 Commerce Street, Bernice Abbott captures the city in a beautiful abstraction that provides a fresh take on her usual realism-based depictions of New York's architectural elements and bustling city life. By blurring the built environment, Abbott offers a softer interpretation of the city and places the movement of nature at the forefront of the image. The painstaking detail in the raindrops clinging to the glass window pane juxtapose the motion of the natural environment with the rigidity of the concrete jungle. The reflective qualities of the glass in this image are also reminiscent of the work of Abbott's mentor and fellow photographer Eugene Auger. When read in tandem with Auger's photograph, Untitled Mannequins, the two pieces highlight the life trapped between the natural and industrialized worlds, with Abbott freezing the raindrops in time, much like Auger's treatment of the plastic mannequins. In both images, the glass provides a prism through which to explore the outside world, bringing it into a much altered viewing context.
This is Savannah Orsak, class of 2022, and I researched Eugene Atget's Untitled Mannequins. French photographer Eugene Atget is best known for capturing the architectural components of the streets of Paris. After taking up photography in the late 1880s, Atget attracted the attention of the Surrealists. However, Atget rejected the notion of surrealism within his photographs as he knew them to be the reality of the city around him. Untitled Mannequins is evidence of Atget's work as images of daily life with inferences to the surrealism of lived experience. The display of mannequins behind the reflective window pane effectively captured the familiar yet liminal aspects of living by creating a coexistence of the instantaneous street life with the disturbingly wistful grins of plastic mannequins in an abandoned storefront. Separation of the natural world from the industrial becomes more immediate when they are viewed through a glass where the trees and pedestrian forms merge with the neglected fashions that act as a representative of industry in the day-to-day. In the window pane, Atget is also documenting classic and recognizable French architecture among a period of modernization. The intentional motion of space archived within the window is a continual display of life lived, existing dynamically as a present moment within the complexity of unknown and future experiences.
This is Sarah Morgan, class of 2021, and I researched Bernice Abbott's New York City at Night. Though most well known for her intimate portraits of leading artistic and literary figures during the 1920s, American artist Bernice Abbott is equally renowned for her iconic cityscape photography. After learning the basics in Paris as man-raised darkroom assistant, Abbott took her photographic training back to the U.S., where she began documenting the movement and life of New York. By focusing on architecture and industrial design, Abbott was able to uniquely capture the city's fast-paced movement and vitality. The gelatin silver print, New York at Night, is a prime example of this period in her artistic practice and was created as part of her project, New York Changing. In an interview about the project, Abbott reiterated that to photograph New York City means to seek to catch in the sensitive photographic emulsion the spirit of the metropolis, while remaining true to its essential fact, its hurrying tempo, its congested streets, the past jostling the present. End quote. In New York at Night, we are able to see this approach in full effect as Abbott's use of a 15-minute-long exposure highlights the glare of lights and cars zooming blocks below. The high angle taken atop the Empire State Building also adds to the expansiveness of the view, placing the viewer high above the fray of daily life but giving the scene an almost trance-like energy nonetheless.
This is Luke Marini, class of 2023, and I researched Paul Caponigro's Running White Deer, Country Wicklow, Ireland. Paul Caponigro uses a slow shutter speed to capture the rushing motion of deer in this photograph, resulting in one of his best-known images. The contrast of white against black and the blurred motion against a still landscape creates a mystical scene that is at once spiritual and daunting.
This is Abigail Van Essendorf, class of 2021, and I researched Edward Muybridge's Man with Javelin. One of many photographs Muybridge produced while working at the University of Pennsylvania, Man with Javelin represents an unlikely overlap between still photography and motion. Working in the late 1800s before the development of video cameras, Muybridge created his own techniques for studying life in motion, including an early setup of 12 cameras with shutters triggered by a subject's motion. In this image, a young athlete is featured throwing a javelin, and his movements are collected in sequential frames, which allow for the study of the movement, a revolutionary idea during this time.